Hello, Hunter Hartwig here on behalf of myself and my fantastic partner Brittany Sauer. Today we are going to take a look at Marcia Baxter Magolda's theory of self-authorship. Before we get started, let's define what Baxter Magolda means by self-authorship. In her research, she has defined the term as the internal capacity to define one's beliefs, identity, and social relationships. To create this definition, Baxter Magolda's earlier work focused on 101 Miami University students, in Oxford, Ohio, that is. For her later research in self-authorship, she followed 39 of this original group into their 20s. Oops, wrong 20s. That's more like it. She then followed 30 of those 39 into their 30s. Of these individuals, all were white, including 18 women and 11 men. 17 of these individuals have advanced degrees, most in business and education. 27 of the 30 are married or in committed relationships, and 22 have children. These individuals were the subjects of her post-college research, which involved 60 to 90-minute conversational interviews. The research revealed evidence of participants' epistemological development being connected to their development of their sense of self, thus creating a theory on self-authorship. Using her theory, Baxter Magolda found 3 questions that individuals ask during their 20s that help define their sense of self. The first, how do I know, helps us understand the epistemological dimension of self-authorship. The second question, who am I, relates to the intrapersonal dimension as people begin to ask the questions that form their identity. The last question, how do I want to construct relationships with others, relates to the interpersonal dimension. The intersection of these 3 elements leads to self-authorship, and without all 3, self-authorship is not likely to be fully developed. Baxter Magolda also identified 4 phases toward self-authorship, moving from external to internal self-identification. Within each phase are cognitive, intrapersonal, and interpersonal dimensions we've already explored. The first phase is called following formulas. At this stage, young adults are following the plans that have been laid out for them by their friends, family, and other guidance figures. They let others define them and have the need to gain approval in relationships. For example, a student attends a college solely because their parent is an alum. The second phase is known as the crossroads. In this phase, individuals realize that the paths they have been on might not be the best suited for their wants and needs, so they begin to look at other options. They also realize that they have been defined by others and now see a need to define themselves. Lastly, they need to be authentic in their relationships, letting others know about the conflict they may be experiencing. The third phase is becoming the author of one's own life. Here, the individual has the ability to stand up for their own beliefs and to live them out. They develop a strong self-concept and weigh their own needs and desires in relationships. The fourth and last phase is internal foundation. Young adults who make it to this phase are grounded in their own internal belief system while being open to change. They are able to be aware of external influences without allowing them to affect their own inner peace and understanding. For people in phase 4, life decisions are based on their internal foundation. The 30 subjects that were interviewed in their 30s revealed 3 elements of self-authorship. The first is trusting the internal voice. The second is building an internal foundation. And the third is securing internal commitments. Trusting the internal voice happened when participants realized they could control how they felt about and responded to events that were beyond their control. This is also where people begin to build confidence in their own voice. After participants trusted their internal voices, they began building an internal foundation. This foundation was defined by Baxter Magolda as a personal philosophy or framework to guide their actions. The last element, securing internal commitments, is reflected in the participants by integrating their internal convictions and foundations with external realities, which led to a sense of freedom. Baxter Magolda was just as worried about the development of self-authorship as she was about the concept, so she did us a solid and developed a learning partnerships model to implement self-authorship development. 3 assumptions led her approach, which was based on the idea that young adults must challenge authority to develop self-authorship. Those 3 assumptions are: number 1, knowledge is complex and socially constructed. Number 2, self is central to knowledge construction. And number 3, authority and expertise are shared in the mutual construction of knowledge among peers. Based on these 3 assumptions, she claims that there are 3 principles to encourage development within educational practice. Number 1, validating learners' capacity to know. Number 2, educators should always situate learning in the learner's experience. And number 3, meaning should always be mutually constructed among peers, faculty, staff, and other educators the students might encounter. It should also be noted that self-authorship is not a linear process, but instead allows individuals to flow down many different paths. It's your job as a student affairs professional to help facilitate students down the path that suits them best. Join us in class on Monday to find out why college environments do not often create the needed conditions for students to develop self-authorship and what we can do to change that. Thanks for joining us.